Hi everyone, this is Wolf Branch Homestead. We're over next to the hummingbird garden today to show you something important. Today is June 1st, and if you don't know why that's significant, well, that begins hurricane season officially. This tree, I refer to it as the torch tree. The top's kind of spread out like an old style torch, and this oak tree split off in October of 2020. Thank you, bird. In October of 2020, Tropical Storm Zeta was passing through this area, and we had a lot of high wind, a lot of down trees. And when this impacted us, not only did we have a lot of flooding around our area, but for us, we were without power in this area for over a week. The thing to remember about this is at this point in October, it's starting to get cold for us. We're having these cold snaps, especially right around the end of the month like it was. And a lot of the elderly community members, if they didn't have gas hooked up to their house, maybe they didn't have the ability to light their wood stove, these folks were without heat in a really bad situation. And then other people where they couldn't get out of their homes, and stores around the area were, if they were even open, a lot of people don't carry cash now. So when these businesses were only open with cash, a lot of people were having a hard time being able to get anything, if there was anything even in the stores. With the beginning of hurricane season, make sure if you're anywhere remotely close to where there's a potential to be hit by hurricanes and tropical storms, now is the time to start keeping an eye on those maps. The National Hurricane Center, I'm not sure if I'm saying it entirely right there, but there's a website online where you can look up the potential storms developing, the cones for potential landfall, things like that, the storm tracks themselves. If you're looking into this, make sure not to just check on it once, especially if something looks like it might even remotely come to your part of the country. Keep an eye on those storms because they can shift course. The same year, in October of 2020, we had Zeta. Well, before that, in 2020, we had Hurricane Sally. With Hurricane Sally, it kind of looked like it was going to go over towards Louisiana. Well, the storm shifted closer towards landfall and went over to an area we're more familiar with, kind of by like Pensacola, Florida area. And it ended up shifting track and doing a lot of damage in that area. Not only just from the storms, but the after effects from it as well. So when you're looking at these storms, don't just see a path that it's on and think that that's for certain, especially when it hasn't made landfall yet. So keep your eyes on it and be aware. But also for the aspects of having damage and not being able to leave the home, not being able to go to the store, to have heat, to have power, things like that, make sure that you have backup plans in place. Apologies, the dogs are barking in the background here. But make sure that you have plans in place for how you're going to preserve your food, if you're going to have enough food in stock, if you're going to have enough water, if you're going to be able to provide for your animals. If it's a really extreme scenario, you might have to evacuate. So make sure that you have a plan in place for how you would evacuate yourself, your family, your animals as well. For the area that we're in, we're not at a risk of flooding, but a lot of wind, a lot of rain. We're going to have uprooted trees. We're going to have no power in this area. There is a creek nearby, so the creek does come up occasionally if we get a lot of heavy rain, but it doesn't come up enough to flood. However, there are areas around us where people's daily travel involves areas where there are large ponds or there are little rivers going under bridges and things like that. And we had a really bad rainfall a while back, and that one bridge that we went over, that we go over quite often, was actually almost to the top of the bridge, which was very crazy to see. I haven't seen that yet before. And people that might live near the Alabama River, I've seen instances where there was a lot of rainfall and the river had come so high up. It was just, people that lived right there were really at risk. Even though they lived high up and they had their homes built up high, they were at a risk for being flooded out. So be prepared, not only in case you have to evacuate, but in case you are staying in that area, and be ready to not only feed you and your family and your animals, make sure that you have water, make sure that you can keep yourselves warm, make sure that you can, keep your food preserved, especially if you have a lot of food in your freezer or your refrigerator. Make sure you have some sort of generator. Another thing is, don't just limit it to hurricanes. If you live in an area that sees fires, that sees earthquakes, things like that, know what your area possibly is going to face. For us, we haven't really had a major storm since Hurricane Ivan came through back in 2004, I believe it was. That was the most major hurricane, but we still stay prepared. Just in case there is that one time, like with this was simply a tropical storm, the tail end of it coming through, and yet we still were without power in this area for over a week. We also rarely get heavy snow. And let's see, I think it was the tail end of 2017. That was the most snow I had seen in a long time in this area. And again, almost a week without power. And yeah, we had the snow so people could kind of put it in the freezer and things like that, put it in the refrigerator, kind of help keep everything. But there are people that lost a lot of food because of that, because they didn't have power. And again, with these scenarios, not just hurricanes and things like that, but especially fire, make sure you have a plan in place to get you and your family and your pets out. Another example is, we've seen areas where there are prescribed burns in a certain area, and it can get out of hand really fast. And people are not prepared for that. They might know that there's a prescribed fire happening, but then it might be under review. Oh, we're not going to make a decision until the next morning or something like that. And they might go ahead with it, and these people are unprepared for the fact that the wind might shift differently and the fire kind of gets out of hand. Well, people that have livestock, they have their pets at home, they're in a situation where they're kind of at a loss, and it's really hard to know how to proceed. So even instances like that, if there's a possible prescribed fire near you, be prepared, be alert. Kind of in summary, again, with it being June 1st, we know that the hurricane season's about to begin. So for us, that's one of the main things starting now that we're going to be keeping an eye on daily, to make sure that any of these storm tracks, whether that be they're really severe or if it's just going to cause a lot of rainfall, we're still going to be alert for it. And we want everybody else to be prepared in the same way for any possible challenges their region's going to face. So take a moment, review the different things that might impact where you live. Again, whether that be hurricanes, fire, earthquake, really heavy snow issues. I mean, any amount of things. If it could cause a problem for you and your family, take a moment to review your emergency plans. And if you don't have any, go ahead and get them set up. We hope that hopefully this has been a little bit of a reminder for you if you've kind of gone off track from your plans and you haven't really thought about them or adapted them to your current situation. And if you don't have any in place, then maybe this will be a little bit of a push for you to consider that. So again, think about that. If you were to have an emergency scenario, what would you do with yourself or your family? If you have an elderly family member that might live down the road from you, is there a way that you could help them out, or that they could sustain themselves, or somebody could check in on them? Or if you have your pets at home, if you have livestock, how are you going to take care of them? So hopefully this has helped somebody out along the way, and just hopefully want to wish everybody well, and hopefully this hurricane season is not really bad. Everybody's safe, and we're going to definitely be watching the weather from now on the actual storm tracks. I know one right now was at a 10% chance of forming in the Atlantic in the next 48 hours, and the other one was at a 70%, so we're going to be keeping a close eye on those. But again, thank you for watching and listening in. We appreciate you and hope you have a wonderful and safe day.